save our planet, Mexico's president and United Nations leaders urge for Earth-protecting measures at Cancun conference.
In an address on Monday, December 6th, host nation Mexico's President Felipe Calderón spoke of the immediate actions needed to curb carbon footprints worldwide and ensure a safe future for our children.
The leader emphasized the foremost requirement that the highly potent methane emissions from animal agriculture and fertilizers be reduced, saying also that his country had made a mistake 30 years earlier by engaging in destructive deforestation. The president affirmed that such activities must stop now and that a special reforestation committee has been formed toward the goal of restoring the nation's vital trees. He also announced plans to increase fuel taxes toward a goal of eliminating fossil fuels, while reminding of the need for fellow citizens to implement eco-friendly practices in their daily lives, such as the elimination of 100-watt incandescent light bulbs. Meanwhile, President Calderón also acknowledged the historical suffering of women, saying that many cruelties of the world exist because not enough women have been involved in leadership roles. He thus expressed his support for more involvement of women in political positions.
50% increase in population.
Also during the conference on Tuesday, United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon addressed global environment ministers and other high-level officials, urging them to continue their fullest courageous cooperation.
We need to have this political heat as long as we can say that we have globally binding, comprehensive agreement. As long as we'll be able to say that we have done enough for our future generation. We have done enough to save this planet from this accelerating climate change phenomenon.
To achieve these ambitious goals, both the United Nations Environment Program's Executive Director, Achim Steiner, and United Nations Development Program Administrator, Helen Clark, emphasized the need for fundamental changes that restore the Earth.
When we talk about the green economy, we are not talking about some abstract notion of the future. We are talking about something we are destroying right now, which is the natural capital of our economies. So the argument that access to energy and access to clean energy is somehow an impediment to development is about to be disproven.
We know that tackling deforestation can give us some of the quickest and simplest wins on mitigation and getting down greenhouse gas emissions. But to achieve that, we have to turn notions of development on their head, because development used to be about clearing forest.
Our respectful salute, Your Excellencies President Calderón, Secretary General Ban, Executive Director Steiner, and Administrator Clark for your dedication to the protection of our planet.
May your conscientious example inspire many more leaders and citizens around the world to adopt green solutions, such as the earth-balancing plant-based lifestyle.
In a November 2009 video conference in Mexico, Supreme Master Ching Hai offered her support for such effective actions to alleviate climate change.
I have seen that your country's president, His Excellency Felipe Calderón, and honorable magistrates, the mayors of different cities, representing the dedicated governments of Mexico, are striving to receive the best information for the wisest actions. I laud these heartening signs and wish that the time today can serve as another step in your confident strides forward to do what is right for your country and the world. The most important is to please choose to be vegan. It is an obligation if we want to save our only planet, if we want to save our children. And we cannot do it. And if you believe in miracles, we will also definitely have the miracle of a compassionate, heavenly-like vegan world.
Save our planet. Leaders work toward climate change plan at Mexico Summit. As part of the second week of talks at the COP16 Climate Change Conference in Cancun, 3 meetings were held on Wednesday, December 8th. The COP16 CMP6 President's Event on Initiatives by Cities and Parliaments, the report of Secretary General's High-Level Advisory Group on Climate Change Financing, and Heads of State Government Dialogues. At the invitation of Mexico's Secretariat of Environment and Natural Resources, Supreme Master Ching Hai had agreed to attend some of these important meetings out of her deep concern and support for the summit's shared goal of planet-saving initiatives.
To the international efforts in mitigating and adapting
During the Wednesday gatherings, British climate expert Lord Nicholas Stern called for focus on poverty mitigation and a climate change project for solutions to take effect not just now, but also over the next years. African leaders from countries such as Namibia also expressed concern, noting that the situation is much graver than they had been aware.
The impact of climate change are already being felt in Namibia, manifesting itself in the form of frequent droughts, floods, rainfall variabilities, and high temperature.
Although the whole continent only emits as much pollution as the U.S. state of Texas, it unfortunately suffers the most, with internal wars linked to climate change effects, with inland regions facing the extremes of both drought and flooding, and coastal communities threatened by steep sea level rises. Many people could soon be risking their lives to migrate to such places as Europe, as anything over a 1.5 degrees Celsius rise in global temperatures would spell disaster for Africa. The representatives present called for mitigation action to be agreed upon now, saying that it would otherwise be too late. One proposed measure is to plant 1 billion trees per year, which would create a major carbon storage source and help retain moisture, thus benefiting agriculture and helping to reduce poverty. Delegates also pointed out Africa's strong potential for using sustainable energy, such as through a Sahara Desert solar project. Attention was also drawn to islands endangered by climate change. The Caribbean islands, for instance, are facing a steep increase of hurricanes, including the recent Hurricane Thomas. Residents of the Pacific Islands, many of whom are already suffering psychologically as their nations become submerged in rising seas, are looking for land to escape to. Palau's President Johnson Tory Biong spoke of his island nation's plight as encroaching waters and a warming ocean affects crops and biodiversity as well as causing a drop in tourism. Saying that the population was shocked when high tides first inundated their taro plantings, he said they now realize that such disasters are due to humans' abuse of nature, emphasizing that the trend must be reversed lest low-lying islands disappear completely. President Tory Biong highlighted win-win green policies such as Palau's own endeavors in converting to solar energy and planting trees. As for Asian nations, commendable efforts were raised, including India's responsible green policy plans to utilize solar power and natural gas and initiatives by the Malaysian government.
Malaysian government has taken the initiative to strive toward a low-carbon society. Among the ongoing program are measures targeting renewable energy and energy efficiency. In addition, Malaysia reaffirmed its commitment to maintain 50% of its land area under green cover through sustainable forest management and good agriculture practices. We are also embarking on a long-term tree planting program. Between April and June this year, more than 5 million trees have been planted. This is part of an ambitious program to plant 26 million trees.
Meanwhile, conveying his admiration for other leaders' efforts to tackle climate change, Mexican President Felipe Calderon emphasized the importance of providing financial support rather than further burden low-income families with the cost of restoring the environment. Also addressing the significance of climate change, Honduran President Porfirio Lobo said he hadn't taken it seriously until this year, when he witnessed firsthand the reality of climate change through the unusual disasters that struck, including coastal floods, never-before-seen diseases like the persistent corn fungus, and untimely hailstorms. Another subject that was brought up was on preventive projects to safeguard people in vulnerable areas before disasters would force them to adapt. This includes building new cities with all eco-friendly facilities for the safe migration of those at risk.
Here in Cancun, we need to prove that we are resolved and capable of acting multilaterally. And we need to do so because climate change can only be addressed together.
We appreciate all decision makers present for your united concern in addressing climate change for the benefit of all people. May such constructive efforts as these pave the way for wise and effective measures, including policies that herald the planet-cooling benefits of organic vegan fare.
United Nations Climate Change Conference welcomes supportive presence of Supreme Master Ching Hai. With the start of the high-level climate negotiations in Cancun, Mexico, Supreme Master Ching Hai was asked to attend sessions of the important proceedings at the invitation of the Secretariat of Environment and Natural Resources in Mexico.
Among the dignitaries having a chance to meet her since she arrived was Dr. Rajendra Pachauri, chairman of the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Dr. Pachauri, a vegetarian himself, had collaborated with our association in past climate-related conferences. For his dedicated stance on the vegetarian lifestyle and its vital contribution to stopping global warming, he had been honored with the Shining World Hero Award from Supreme Master Ching Hai.
And you have created a global organization, and you have so much enthusiasm among your devotees and followers.
Just so nice. I'm humbled by their devotion and their sincerity.
That's a tribute to your leadership.
Before parting, Supreme Master Ching Hai presented gifts to Dr. Pachauri as a token of her best wishes for his work during the summit.
In addition, Supreme Master Ching Hai has been also meeting with the public at Climate Change Village. With the release of the new book, From Crisis to Peace, The Organic Vegan Way is the Answer, she had graciously made time to accept requests to autograph copies of the free volume, which explains in depth the organic vegan diet solution to climate change through compilations of past conferences with Supreme Master Ching Hai.
Meanwhile, coinciding with the United Nations Climate Change Conference, a panel representing a group of Latin American nations agreed on a project to quantify greenhouse gas emissions from their cattle populations. Given the immense amount of global warming already known to come from livestock-related emissions, this new joint project was selected from among other proposals on ways to mitigate climate change and strengthen food security. Scientists noted that in countries like Argentina, livestock production accounts for 41% of the country's total greenhouse gas emissions, while in Uruguay it is responsible for 78% and in Paraguay 97%. This collaborative endeavor thus will specifically measure the cattle's methane and nitrous oxide emissions, which are respectively 100 and 300 times more potent than carbon dioxide, with the aim being to reduce emissions from these major sources.
Bravo, Latin American countries, for your acknowledgement and efforts to reduce greenhouse gases from the livestock sector, the most critical issue of global warming. We are also grateful to Dr. Pachauri, as well as all the dedicated leaders at the Climate Change Conference, and to Supreme Master Ching Hai, whose activities in Cancun are surely a special encouragement and contribution. May the organic vegan solution be considered foremost in government's decision-making for the protection of our planet and co-inhabitants.